Hello and welcome to another session of MCQs on basic macroeconomics. Our fifth lecture in basic macroeconomics is about structural transformation, and today we are going to conduct a session of MCQs on that very subject. I hope that you have watched the lecture, and if you haven't as yet, then you should watch the lecture first before coming to this session of MCQs. So we straight away begin with our first question. The first question is structural transformation means. You have to identify which of the options represents the best structural transformation. So the first option is change in relative importance of different sectors. So if relative importance of different sectors changes, then we can say structural transformation has occurred. The second option is focus of an economy's activity shifts from primary through the secondary to the tertiary sector. That is, first the focus of economic activities is the primary sector, then it becomes the secondary sector, and finally it is the tertiary sector which becomes the most important for an economy. So this is what we call as structural transformation. The C option is that primary sector output and employment contribution as a proportion, as a percentage, it goes down. Secondary sector output and employment contribution as a proportion, percentage, it goes up, and tertiary sector output and employment contribution, it goes up. So whether we should call this as structural transformation. And the last option is all of the above. Now if you know about the idea of structural transformation, then we will be conversant about the fact that all the three options given, A, B and C, they represent structural transformation, because in structural transformation relative importance of different sectors changes, and then focus of an economy's activity, it shifts from primary then to secondary and finally to the tertiary sector. GDP and employment contribution of the agriculture sector, primary sector, it comes down as a percentage, and that of the secondary sector and tertiary sector, it goes up. So all the three options represent structural transformation, and therefore we can say that the most appropriate answer over here is the last one, D option, all of the above. Our second question is, in a high income economy, which sector contributes most to the national output? Now we know when an economy progresses, in the beginning, when there is not so much progress, it is primary sector dependent. It is the primary sector which contributes the most, and in the second phase it is the secondary sector which becomes very predominant, and finally it is tertiary sector which produces the maximum, the most in terms of the percentage contribution output for an economy. So the answers include primary, secondary, tertiary, and none of the above. So the answer is C1, that is tertiary sector. The third question is, which of the following economists put forward the concept of structural transformation? You have to identify the economist or economists who first put forward the concept of structural transformation, and the options include Adam Smith, Alan Fisher, Alfred Marshall, and none of the above. Now we have discussed this very thing in our lecture, structural transformation, and we know that it is Alan Fisher who was among the first economists who proposed the concept of, who put forward the concept of structural transformation through their three sector model. Our fourth question is, the idea that with technical progress labor migrates from agriculture to non-agriculture sector is known as. That is, there is an idea that labor will move from agriculture to non-agriculture sector if technical progress occurs, and it has a formal name in the science of economics. So what is that now called? So your options include A, Petty-Clark law or theorem, B is Rostow's stages of growth, C, Say's law, and the last one is the law of demand. So if you have watched the lecture, we have discussed this, the idea that labor migrates from agriculture to non-agriculture sector if technical progress occurs. This is called as Petty-Clark law or Petty-Clark theorem, because William Petty and Colin Clark were the economists who first projected this very thing, highlighted this very thing in the science of economics. Our last question is, the main focus of an economy's activity shifts from primary through the secondary and finally to the tertiary sector. What is this called? So this very idea that economy's mainstay of activities. Majority of the activities in the beginning will take place in the primary sector. Then with the passage of time, the main focus of economic activities will be the secondary sector, and finally it will be the tertiary sector, which will become the focus of economic activities. So what is this very process known as? So the options include petty caloric law, Rostow's stages of growth, the three-sector model, none of the above. Now, the most appropriate answer in this case is the three-sector model, which was developed by economists in 1940s, primarily to highlight this very idea that economic activities, the main focus of economic activities in the beginning is in the primary sector, then it is the secondary sector which becomes predominant, and finally it is the tertiary sector which becomes the most important sector for an economy in terms of the contribution to GDP and employment. So this concludes our session of MCQs on basic macroeconomics for the topic structural transformation. I hope that you have enjoyed this very session thoroughly. Do subscribe to my channel, my YouTube channel, Earnest Economics. Thank you very much.